Happy Hispanic Heritage Month. Yeah. As you know, we've been doing lots of things during this month to educate and to mobilize, to inspire, and to expand our work around racial and social justice. We will join together in tribute to the many individuals, some known to us and far too many unknown, whose work, experiences, wisdom, courage, and commitment have all helped to build our nation into what it is today and fight for what we need it to be tomorrow. As we honor the almost 64 million Latinos who call the U.S. home, and the 3 out of every 7 public school students who are Latino, I ask that you ground yourselves in the words of former Housing and Urban Development Secretary Julian Castro. In the end, the American dream is not a sprint or even a marathon. It is a relay. Our families don't always cross the finish line in the span of one generation, but each generation passes on to the next the fruits of their labor. NEA leaders, as the ancestors of future generations, we must and we will continue to do all we can to run as far as we can during our leg of the relay for equity and justice and freedom. That is why the NEA support for the Latino civic engagement, our support for immigrant workers and families, our calls for pay equity for Latina workers will never waver. That is why we will continue to demand that every Latino student receive the support and access and opportunity that every student deserves. And that is why we will continue to stand in solidarity and partnership with organizations like LULAC. And that is why we have invited a very special speaker here today to help us all continue our journey of awareness, building our capacity so that we are prepared to take the action we must for our students, for our colleagues, for our communities, and for this country. Please welcome Alberto Nodal, Chair of the Hispanic Caucus, who will tell you more about our very special guest, LULAC CEO, Juan Proaño.
Hello, NEA board members, staff, and guests. My name is Alberto Nodal. My pronouns are he, him, él, chair of the Hispanic Caucus. I'm a bilingual kindergarten teacher from California, home of the next president of the United States, Kamala Harris. Today, as we celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month, I have the pleasure of introducing Juan Proaño. Juan is an entrepreneur with a career trajectory that spans the sectors of technology, civic affairs, social impact, and politics. In November of 2023, he was appointed Chief Executive Officer of the League of United Latin American Citizens, known in short as LULAC, the nation's oldest and largest Latino civil rights organization. As LULAC CEO, Juan oversees the day-to-day operations, identifies strategic growth areas, and works to amplify the organization's advocacy initiatives and action-oriented programs. In his 2 decades of entrepreneurship, Juan has founded and managed 3 companies in the technology sector and generated more than $400 million in the revenue for his businesses, which have operated throughout the US and Latin America. In 2015, Juan was invited to be part of the first class of Latino-owned business leaders to participate in the Stanford Latino Entrepreneurship Initiative, a program designed to help Latino-owned businesses scale to $1 billion in revenue. Juan also started a program at Plus3, a technology company he co-founded in 2002, to develop the capacity of Latino nonprofits across the country by providing $250,000 of in-kind services. Recognized for his pioneering work in technology and online fundraising fields, Juan has been featured in Time magazine for his work with the DNC and has been recognized by the United States Hispanic Chamber of Commerce as one of the top 100 Latino CEOs. Active in civic and community affairs, Juan has been a bridge builder between various underrepresented communities. An example of this has been his work at the NAACP, where he worked alongside its prominent leadership as the first Latino on the CEO Advisory Committee, led the Hurricane Katrina campaign, which raised $2.6 million in less than 30 days, worked on the Voting Rights Reauthorization Act, and the capital punishment campaign to save Stanley Tookie Williams' life, which garnered over 100,000 petition signatures, 2 monumental records for the NAACP at that time. Please help me give a warm welcome to Juan Proaño.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. This is a raucous crowd. I like it. I like it. First, let me just thank Becky. Thank you so much for this invitation, Becky. Especially during this Hispanic Heritage Month, a time when we celebrate the contributions that Latinos make to this great country. I also want to acknowledge, thank you, Alberto, really for all you do to educate our children, the next generation of leaders. And also I'd like to thank Noel Candelaria, the NEA Executive Committee, and the NEA Board of Directors for your leadership. And I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge Rocio Inclán, Merwin Scott, and Laura Castillo for their incredible partnership. Thank you. My story is one of a first-generation Latino immigrant. I grew up in a loving household with 2 sisters and a brother. We're Spanish twins, is what we call them. We were all born a year apart. My mother's from Colombia, my father's from Peru, and our first language at home was Spanish. Picture of, let me see if this works. Oh, let me see, did it fall asleep? Did it fall asleep? 1 second. Okay, all right, there we go. There we go. My wife is Cuban, and our only argument is about whether our children are 99% Cuban or 30% Colombian, 33% Peruvian, and 33% Cuban. Our family is a reflection of what a new generation of Latino families in the United States actually looks like. One of my nephews is a redhead, Kyle, you see him there. Not very common for Latinos. His mom is Irish American. My other nieces and nephews are Afro-Latino, all of them in college, and we are especially proud of Daryl and Marvin, who play football at the University of Miami and FSU. So Marvin actually won the championship with Georgia, and then he transferred to FSU, which is not doing that well this year. NIL, man, NIL. It's a mess. It's a mess. But he's 6'5". He's 245 pounds. He can run the 4.4 and a 40, and he's an excellent student. Which we're very, very, very proud of him. Very proud of him. That's Daryl. I'm a product of the public school system. I went to a public elementary, middle school, and high school in Miami, Florida. I went to community college, and I went to City College in New York. My sister was a teacher in the Broward County school system for 15 years, and my children, Oliver, who's 6, Penelope, 10, and Lola, 16, all go to public schools. My youngest daughter, Penelope, who you see up there, was diagnosed with juvenile diabetes at the age of 4. She's a beneficiary of the 504 plan, which allows her to study along with her peers with the supervision of a nurse. Children are so resilient, and we're comforted that she can go to a school and excel because of the benefits that public school systems provide. This week, she brought home her report card, and I'm happy to report that they were all A's. We are truly, truly blessed. Praise be to God. I'm also the new CEO of LULAC, and it is an honor and privilege for me to represent this organization. LULAC is the country's oldest and largest Latino civil rights organization. It's the only organization with a national membership footprint. We have 535 councils in 33 states, over 260,000 members in all 50 states, including Puerto Rico and Guam. And LULAC's mission has not changed in 95 years, right? The mission of LULAC is to advance the economic condition, educational attainment in the areas of political influence, housing, health, and civil rights for the Hispanic population in the United States. And the motto hasn't changed either. All for one and one for all. In 1929, LULAC was actually founded in Corpus Christi, Texas, out of a resistance to racial discrimination. In 1930, LULAC began working on desegregation in Texas, desegregating public places throughout Texas, barbershops, beauty shops, swimming pools, restrooms, drinking fountains, you name it. Basically the exact same work that the NAACP was doing in the South, LULAC was doing in the Southwest and in the West. In 1934, LULAC actually filed suit in the Menendez versus Westminster case to end 100 years of segregation in California public schools. And this became a key precedent for Brown versus Board of Education. In 1945, we followed that up with a lawsuit against the Orange County school system, which then segregated Mexican children on the premise that they were more poorly clothed and mentally inferior to white children. In 1954, LULAC sued the state of Texas. And 1954 is not that long ago. Our parents and grandparents, their generation. Because Mexican Americans and Latinos were not able to serve on juries in Texas. It's absolutely incredible to think that it was not that long ago. And in 1957, LULAC actually started what we call the Little School of 400. This was not a school for 400 children, but it was a program to teach Latino children 400 English words to better help them assimilate into American culture. That photo on the left and that teacher in that middle of that photo is LBJ, Lyndon B. Johnson, when he was a school teacher, before he actually ran for public office. He was so touched by this program that he used it as a model for Project Head Start, which he and Lady Bird Johnson promoted. And it has gone on to help millions of Latinos, African Americans, and minority children across the country. In 1968, LULAC actually founded MALDEF, the Mexican American Legal Defense and Education Fund. And MALDEF's successful litigation in the cases of White et al. Versus Registrar has brought litigation and compliance for the Voting Rights Act from 1965. In 1973, LULAC founded LNESC, the LULAC National Education Service Centers, modeled after a successful project in California to provide educational opportunities for young adults. And in 1975, LULAC started the LULAC National Scholarship Fund. These are scholarships that are actually provided by local LULAC members. These are not full-ride scholarships. These are $1,500, $2,500 scholarships, which we then match with corporate contributions to help young adults that want to get started in schools, typically local universities, community colleges around the country. In the more recent history, we've advocated for Vanessa Guillen, a Latina who suffered military sexual trauma, very sad story in Texas. We've advocated in 2022 in Uvalde, Texas, in the mass shooting at a Texas school. LULAC raised over $2 million because at the time, the Texas offered those families $987 in victims' compensation. It was a travesty. We were able to provide those families with over $76,000, each one of them, teachers and students included. LULAC members are leaders in the community. They're elected officials, they're police officers, and teachers. LULAC members are NEA members are LULAC members. LULAC, we don't just talk, we act. LULAC founded groundbreaking lawsuits like Menendez versus Westminster and Delgado versus Bastrop ISD in Texas in 1948. In both cases, LULAC envisioned a world where there weren't Mexican schools or white schools, but simply schools. Unified public schools. These efforts laid the foundation for what would become Brown versus Board of Education. Integrated schools weren't just a necessity, they are a right. But that fight didn't end there. In Texas, Latino students were still being left behind. In 1957, LULAC's national president, Felix Tijerina, a restaurant owner in Houston, noticed this troubling pattern. Children dropping out of school, Latino children dropping out of school before first grade. It's not that they weren't bright, but they lacked one thing, English. So Felix and LULAC members got together and founded the Little School for 100. After just 2 years of remarkable success, people began to take notice. Lyndon B. Johnson adopted this program, and it has impacted millions of people around the country. In the 1970s, LULAC began to see a shift in the needs of the Latino community. Latinos were not just undereducated, underpaid, and discriminated against. They were now facing a rise of anti-immigrant policies. One of the earliest battlegrounds was in Texas. In 1977, the Tyler Independent School District in Texas implemented a policy requiring foreign-born students without immigration status to pay tuition. The lawsuit eventually reached the U.S. Supreme Court, and in 1982, the court delivered a landmark ruling. The right of a child to access K-12 education is fundamental, regardless of their immigration status. The court highlighted the vital role public education plays in American society and its deep connection to core constitutional principles. But that right soon came under threat. In 1994, California's Proposition 187 aimed to strip undocumented youth of their access to public education. After that proposition passed, LULAC and others filed lawsuit and successfully challenged Governor Pete Wilson, effectively blocking the referendum's cruel mandate. And more recently in Texas, Governor Abbott capitalized on the Harvard Supreme Court ruling to push the elimination of DEI programs on college campuses throughout the state. One significant casualty of this was the initiative which was a cherished graduation ceremony at the University of Texas at Austin, which celebrated Latino students and culture. With Abbott's drastic cuts to diversity initiatives, the event went unfunded. And when a group of Latina students, just months away from graduation, reached out for support, LULAC stepped in to fully fund the ceremony. This ensured that students could celebrate their achievements and heritage with the recognition that they deserve. Now, the Hispanic population has quadrupled in the past 4 decades. It has also become much more diverse. More than 65 million Latinos, 19% of the population identify as Hispanic or Latino. Latino power is growing by leaps and bounds. We're the fastest growing segment in the U.S. population. Latino purchasing power in 2023 was reported at $3.4 trillion, 14% year-over-year growth, over $90 billion a year that we add to our economy's GDP. More Latinos are entering the workforce than ever before, and Latino entrepreneurship is growing at the fastest segment of any ethnic group in the country. 30% of all new companies in the United States from 2027 to 2019 are Latino. Of the 49.6 million students enrolled in public elementary schools and secondary schools, 14.4 million are Hispanic. That's 29%, 10% more than the actual distribution of Latinos in this country. And in 2021 to 2022, of all public school educators, only 9% were Hispanic and 6% were Black. We must do better to put more role models in the classroom that represent the diversity of the student population. We must continue to fight for equity in our education system at every level. We need more resources for our educators. We need more resources for our students. We need more investment from federal, state, and local government to improve the infrastructure of our schools and prepare our students so they can be the next generation of leaders for our country. The LULAC and NEA partnership comes at a critical time given the shifting demographic and political landscape. Working together, LULAC has been able to develop a fully intersectional policy platform that centers the foundations of health and well-being. At the core of this policy platform is education, which we developed in partnership with the NEA policy team. At LULAC, we're working to advance educational attainment and equity for Hispanic students with particular focus on addressing COVID learning loss, supporting English language learners, and ensuring equitable funding of public schools. We're working to ensure Hispanic and minority children can access high-quality early learning childcare programs. We're working to ensure that schools provide safe and inclusive and supportive learning environments. We're working to preserve the use of inclusive educational curriculums and social emotional learnings to support the diversity of the educator workforce, to provide students with the tools and support that they need to close the enduring achievement gap they face in higher education. Becky, Noel, NEA board members, thank you so much. We could not do this work without your support and guidance. Now, the changing political landscape has been significant in this election cycle. When I watched the GOP convention and saw them bring out mass deportation signs, I was scared, I was disgusted. When we read Project 2025 and learned about their plan to establish a unitary executive branch, to start mass deportations of up to 15 million immigrants, to cut off legal immigration, make federal funding and benefits contingent on immigration laws, to start the war on reproductive rights, to dismantle the Department of Education, and to implement welfare cuts and reforms, including decreasing SNAP benefits, eliminating the Head Start program, restricting school meals, and reevaluating the Thrifty Food Plan, and of course to end diversity and inclusion. We had heard enough. It was time to take a stand. For the first time in 95 years, LULAC made an historic endorsement of the Harris-Walz campaign. Thank you. LULAC's endorsement is the biggest Latino endorsement any candidate has ever received. It generated over $70 million in earned media. The campaign was blown away and reported that LULAC endorsement was the biggest of its kind and surpassed their expectations. But very quickly, literally, within 10 days, we made the endorsement on September 10th. Right? On September 20th, 10 days after our endorsement, we began to get reports that LULAC members' homes were being raided. There were 12 search warrants that were issued on that day. 5 LULAC members were targeted. 3 LULAC members were in their 80s. Lydia Martinez, 87 years old, had a door. Officers knock on her door at 6 in the morning. 9 officers barged in with arms, firearms. They searched her home looking for cell phones, computers, went through her drawers, went through her car and her garage. They put her outside in her nightgown in full public view. She actually lived right across the street from a school. And so LULAC quickly activated to engage both our members and provide them the support and resources that they needed, but also to push back and to push back hard. We put together a sign-on letter with over 117 organizations, 27 national organizations, led by the NEA. Yeah. Thank you for your support. We have requested that the DOJ open an investigation to voter suppression and voter intimidation in Texas. We met with Kristen Clark last week, and on Monday we'll be meeting with the Attorney General to advocate for the same. I want to close with a story that illustrates the resilience of our organization and the strengths we can harness in times of crises. I want you to meet Jackie Caceres. And Javier Caceres. Javier is an Army veteran and the father of 9-year-old Jackie Caceres, who was tragically killed in the 2022 Robb Elementary School massacre in Uvalde, Texas. In the wake of that unimaginable loss, Javier didn't just grieve, he took action. Just months after burying his daughter, he and his wife Gloria formed LULAC Council 22499, known as Las Voces Unidas. Last year, Javier and Gloria were seen passionately advocating in the halls of the Texas State Capitol, holding a poster of their beloved daughter, Jackie. Their mission, to ban the sale of powerful AR-15 style assault rifles to anyone under 21. The very weapon used in that horrifying shooting. They stood there not only as grieving parents, but as dedicated LULAC members, joined shoulder to shoulder with allies from the Texas State Teachers Association, educators who have had to conduct active shooting drills in their classrooms. Together, they fought for a bill that unfortunately stalled in committee. Yet their unwavering presence sent a powerful message about the enduring partnership between parents, educators, LULAC, and the NEA. This collaboration goes beyond mere advocacy. It's about empowerment and a crucial reminder that our identity is shaped by those with who we stand with. It stands as a testament to our collective resilience and our unwavering commitment to fight for what we know deep in our bones is right. It's about championing the greater cause of a brighter future for our children and electing leaders who truly want us to thrive. In the Latino community, there's a saying, dime con quien andas y te digo con quien eres. And we are proud to stand here with the NEA. Thank you for your support.
Oh, my goodness. Juan, we immediately got in requests. Is there any way you can share the PowerPoint that was so full of information? So we will share that PowerPoint on Ed Communities. You know, your choice to start with showing us pictures of your beautiful family was a reminder to all of us to always center our why. why we do this work, why we get up every morning, why we will work every second of every day from now until the last day votes can be cast. I've been saying to our members and leaders, Juan, that their assignment is to win all the things. Win all the things come this November. But this is what they know, and you so beautifully represented here today. It's not just about winning in elections where we have people who care about our kids and care about our colleagues, care about our communities and this country. It's not just about that. But what you laid out for us is that it is about joining in partnership to win justice and freedom and equity and respect. And in too many instances, life for everyone in this country. We have committed ourselves here at the NEA to racial and social justice, and we know that while we play an important role as educators and as unionists, we cannot do this alone. And that's why we so value the partnership with LULAC and with you personally as its leader, because you understand that it is only together that we will get this done. Give it up again for our amazing, amazing speaker this morning. Get up on your feet for Juan, yes, and all of the members and activists of LULAC.